Chaffetz will be here in a minute. But first, we have more breaking news tonight. House Intel Committee Chairman Devin Nunes, he has sent a letter to the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein and the FBI Director Christopher Wray. Now, Nunes is blasting the repeated stonewalling by the Department of Justice, which is being led by Rosenstein, in refusing continually to hand over documents that have been subpoenaed by Congress. Remember, Rosenstein is the guy that ran into Paul Ryan's office back in January at the last hour, begging Speaker Ryan to block Congressman Nunes' request for documents about all the FISA abuses and the dossier. We wouldn't have learned that had Paul Ryan capitulated. Without those documents, there never would have been a Nunes memo, and we would not know about any of the massive scandals that we are talking about every night unfolding, like the FISA abuse, lying to judges to get a warrant to spy on a Trump campaign associate, in that case, Carter Page. Rod Rosenstein, why does he want to keep all of this a secret? Why does he want to protect all his corrupt friends? But now, after months of obstructing, Chairman Nunes is demanding answers. And by the way, Nunes has been asking for documents. Some go back to August of 2017. Rod, hand the documents over to the American people. That's how ridiculous this entire process is. And Nunes is now requesting the DOJ do their job. And, of course, Congress has their job. We have checks and balances. We have co-equal branches of government. The DOJ turn over the unredacted version of an FBI memo related to the Bureau's opening of the Russia investigation. Nunes has set a deadline, April 11th. Now, given what we've seen from Rosenstein, it's probably going to be a long time before the House Intel Committee gets to see this. The level of obstruction and protection, the incestuous nature of the relationships, this is beyond disgraceful. Rosenstein has done everything possible that he can do to prevent Congress from doing their job, which is oversight. They have a constitutional, not only right, but duty to do so. So tonight, it's time for Rod Rosenstein to stop hiding the truth from the American people. Now, his boss is the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. And Jeff Sessions rightly said last week that he's angry at the slow pace that these documents are being turned over. Well, you know what? Well, the Attorney General needs to do something about it. If the Attorney General is angry, he needs to take action and force the Deputy AG, Rosenstein, to do his job. And if Rosenstein doesn't want to, then he needs to go, because that is how our government is supposed to work. Now, Congress needs to be able to get answers on behalf of you. We now see corruption at the highest levels of government. And then you got a corrupt media. Well, they're in major denial. They're beside themselves over reports that President Trump is not currently, let me repeat, not a target of the special counsel Robert Mueller's corrupt investigation. Now, despite this new development, the media is desperate. They're holding out hope. They're on their knees. They're praying to God that somehow, some way, Robert Mueller will still find a way to make Donald Trump the target and go after the president. Now, think through this. If that ever happened, is that good for the country? Is that good for the forgotten men and women of the country? Does that create jobs? Does that get people out of poverty and off of food stamps? No. Does it keep us safer? No. Do they seem to care? No. Take a look.
A subject just means someone of interest to the grand jury, but it can also mean someone who's on the road to being charged with a crime.
It's a big deal to be under criminal investigation by the FBI, particularly if you're president of the United States.
So certainly being a subject, they shouldn't be cracking open any champagne in the White House if he's the subject of an investigation.
A target is somebody they're going to indict, and the president, by the policy, cannot be indicted. So it's a little vague what they're meaning, and it may be to make Mr. Trump relax.
If someone walked in my office and said I was a subject of a multi-year criminal investigation led by former FBI Director Robert Mueller, I'd wet my pants.
A non-target letter isn't worth the paper that it's printed on, because the prosecutor can just decide 2 days after he writes the letter that he wants to, now he made up his mind to charge you.
But you can't help but think maybe it's strategic. Like, tell him he's a subject. He likes being the subject.
Well, we're gonna discuss with some people who have experience in this just how often that occurs, that there's a little bit of shading of it when they're just on the verge of switching you into target. They still say you're a subject.
They've been saying this for 18 months. The media is not even trying to hide their bias. They want the president impeached. They're not going to stop till it happens. But here's the thing. The media has been flat out wrong about everything regarding the Russia investigation. Now, constitutional law expert Jonathan Turley, Democrat, is scolding the abusively biased media in a new op-ed he's put out. Here's the headline. When will the media accept that Trump is not a criminal target? Now, Turley blasts the media for promising for over a year. Bombshell, 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 smoking gun. It's all coming. Now, here's what he told Martha McCallum earlier tonight. Take a look.
We went through a long period where people talked about collusion as if there was some federal crime called collusion, and then that morphed into obstruction, and then it morphed into things like, campaign finance violations or other issues. All these crimes have elements. They have case precedent. You have to satisfy those. And where you and I have talked that there are areas that should be of a great concern for President Trump, these crimes have not strengthened over time. When before Comey was fired, he told Trump that he was not a target of that investigation. That's right. It appears that nothing has changed after over a year.
You would think that after a year of conducting a witch hunt, that Mueller might have something on President Trump, but so far that does not appear to be the case. Not to mention, by the way, this is something the media refuses to accept, as constitutional law professor Alan Dershowitz is explaining. Oh, this is rough for the media to handle. Collusion is not a crime. He'll join us later tonight along with Joe DeGeneva. But first, joining us now, our top story, Fox News contributor Jason Chaffetz. I am holding this in my hand. This was a brilliant idea. 10 things Congress should do but won't. And I read this and I'm saying, why wouldn't they, especially in light of everything that I just laid out that the president is doing, troops to the border, he's helping on health care, he's going to go back to the omnibus bill. Everything, he's doing what he can on his own. Why don't the Republicans want to do these things?
Donald Trump wants to play offense, but I can tell you, having left Congress about 2 weeks after, there's a whole new clarity that settles down on you. And until Republicans who've been given the mantle of power, they were elected and put into office to get things done, until they actually play offense, guess what? They're just going to be on the receiving end of attacks.
See, if they were to do these simple things, if they would fully fund the border wall and begin the construction, but the money's there, and I still think the president can get it from the DOD, if they would repeal Obamacare like they said they would, and the president has a great idea with the associations, why do I believe that that's good politics and everybody's worried about the blue wave in 2018? That would mitigate the blue wave.
Just do what you say you're going to do. If they would just do that and do it in a proactive way. Jim Jordan talks a lot about this. This is what the American people elected us to do. So let's try it and see what happens.
Let me ask, this is how I see it. I see Hillary Clinton, she fixed the primary. Maybe I'm the only person in the world that cares about Bernie Sanders supporters. That's kind of corrupt.
Yeah.
Then Hillary Clinton, okay, she deletes 33,000 emails. She acid washes the hard drive, bleach bit. Then she takes hammers, or have people taking hammers and busting up these devices. Then the fix is in with Strzok, Comey, Page, McCabe, and Loretta Lynch in the tarmac meeting. And they didn't interview, writing an exoneration months before the investigation. They interview her 2 days later, they exonerate her.
Yeah.
And then you have the whole dossier, and then you have lying to FISA court judges.
And you have to understand that Director Comey went to President-elect Trump and said, hey, there's this dossier, it's unverified.
Said that in January of 2017.
That's right. And so, hey, here's this bogus thing. Meanwhile, he had signed his name off
3 months earlier
and presenting it to the court. So why was it good enough to present to the court? But now that there's a President-elect Trump and a President Trump coming into office, suddenly he's making excuses for it. That is something that both sides of the aisle should be looking at. But
is that a crime? In other words, I've got to believe that James Comey is in a heap of trouble between leaking this information that he had that was supposed to be confidential and privileged with the president. Then, of course, what he did to get the special counsel appointed. Then he's got this issue. Then he's working to exonerate Hillary. He lays out a 13-and-a-half-minute case and then says, never mind. I think he's in trouble legally. Do you?
Oh, I do think he's. Look, you had John Ratcliffe in the House Judiciary Committee ask him point blank, when did you make this decision? Only to find out later, months later, the revelation that they started writing this exoneration months before Director Comey actually stood up in July of 2016 and said, you know, we don't find anything there. I think he is in deep legal problem. That's why you need a second special counsel, because the FBI cannot investigate itself.
Have you ever seen such corruption?
I haven't, and it scares me because it's at the highest levels. It's not. There's 110,000 people at the Department of Justice, and they're good, hardworking, patriotic people.
By the way, same with the FBI. This is not rank and file FBI or rank and file intelligence people.
But you got the head of the beast here, and you look at those people in the senior most positions. And what's different in this electronic age is now we have text messages and emails. And remember when the FBI said we can't find 5 months worth, but the Inspector General
Hillary Clinton did with her emails.
Oh, you'd have handcuffs on. You'd be in jail.
You wouldn't be able to get me out.
No.
All right. Gee, thanks a lot. I'd take a cake with a file. But I look at all of this. Have you ever heard of an FBI director taking a case away from a field office, putting it in a special category, and writing an exoneration months before you investigate or talk to the key witnesses in the case?
And then you combine that with the people and what's going on with Robert Mueller now. One of the things I put on my list of 10 is that they should actually bring up, and they should have Director Mueller and Rod Rosenstein testify before the House.
Rod Rosenstein belongs in his position?
I think he should be brought before Congress, and he should have to testify about the conflicts of interest, and that would illuminate a whole set of problems.
Great job filling in for Laura, but I told you not to get. Laura is back on Monday.
She is. She's wonderful. She's one of the best.
I know. That was more for the liberal media.
Yeah.
Congressman, good to see you.
Hey, thank you.
Appreciate
Thanks,
it. All right, when we come back, you're definitely going to want to hear from U.S. Attorney Joe DeGenova and the esteemed legal scholar, Professor Alan Dershowitz. We have a lot of news we're getting to tonight right here on Hannity. Stay with us.